Welcome back everybody to J12Enhanced. Last time we saw my top 10 best video games of all time. Today we'll be listing more childhood memories and states of fandom bliss and looking at my top 10 favorite cartoons of all time. So let's get right into it. So just like last time, let's get into the rules first of all. Number 1, all American or Canadian cartoons on this list. I intend on doing a top 10 anime and foreign cartoons later on. Number 2, sequels or spin-offs will not be included, as that will also be its own list. And 3, again, this is my opinion, not yours. So if you get a little upset, go ahead and put your top 10 list in the comments, and I'll review your comments and give you my synopsis of your top 10 list. We'll see if we can come to a common ground after that. Number 10. The Flintstones. I know this might seem a little out of my age range, but I would be lying if I said it wasn't one of my top 10 favorite cartoons of all time. Most, if not all of my time in diapers and as a toddler was spent watching Popeye and Barney. No. But my little brain started to develop a little more, and I was more interested in more mature aspects and storylines of the Flintstones and other cartoons of the like. But out of the group, the Flintstones somehow hit the hardest with interesting episode concepts that pushed the boundaries of a kids' cartoon. Due to kids from its original era not being so damn soft like kids of today. But I think it was the holiday specials and the great and just okay movies that just hit my heartstrings harder than other classic Cartoon Network shows. For that, and plenty of fun laughing at Barney Rubble about to get his shit absolutely rocked over some pebbles, all pun intended. Barney! The Flintstones, their way right into my top 10 spot. Number 9. The Simpsons. As a kid, I remember one comedy the whole family, my brothers, sister, mother, and I, would actually all sit down in the living room and watch together, was ironically a cartoon about a family that every episode started out in the living room watching TV. The Simpsons was on every Friday when I was growing up, and reruns would air weekly into my teenage and adulthood. There's so many lessons in my life I owe to Mr. Matt Groening and his brilliant writing staff. Compounded with my mom's amazing teachings, of course. But seriously, my best memories of television in the 90s were either Monday nights watching WCW and WWF respectively, which we'll get into later, or Friday nights watching my favorite more adult-themed cartoons like The Simpsons and another higher member of this list, though in retrospect that entry would maybe have never existed without the titular banana yellow all-American family paving the way. And for that, and so much more that I struggle to explain, they earn a slightly lower, but still respectable spot on my top 10 favorite cartoons of all time. Number 8. Animaniacs. There is so much to be said for this cartoon. Edgy, funny, and downright insane at times. So of course, it held an ADHD suffering child like myself captive the whole show, inspiring me to sing along with oldest Warner Brother twin Yakko when he would, much to my mother's annoyance, sing off the countries of the world.
United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru.
To this day, I still remember most of the countries of the world's names and locations due to this overly silly cartoon, further hinting to its importance, along with a myriad of spin-offs like Pinky and the Brain and Freakazoid, which we'll get into in another list, earn it the much-deserved spot of number 8. Number 7. Courage the Cowardly Dog. Courage the Cowardly Dog is an oddity, a show that not only captivated me, but also terrified me at times, with even the pilot episode being quite unnerving, as a chicken from outer space threatens Courage's elderly owners, Eustace and Muriel Bagg, from eating his eggs, which apparently is also an insidious way of overthrowing the planet with space chickens. As silly as it sounds, to an 11 and 12-year-old me, it was more serious and scary, even with the silliness to balance out the terror, with episodes like Freaky Fred and King Ramses' Curse having some of the most traumatizing imagery in the whole series. This show about a scared little dog doing everything in his power to overcome his fears and save his ditzy and sometimes outright dumb owners was always one of my favorite times of the day, and always a fun and slightly horrifying time to be had. For that and so much more, it screams its way into number 7. Number 6. Rick and Morty. So this will be the newest entry to my list, as we're still in the midst of Season 5. But there is absolutely no chance I couldn't add this masterpiece of a show to my all-time favorites list. Rick and Morty is smart, funny, crazy, and absolutely entertaining from start to finish every episode. With fan-favorite episodes like Anatomy Park, a fun and crazy romp through a dead homeless Santa, Rick and the gang have turned into a microscopic Jurassic Park themed park, and Rick Potion number 9, where Rick makes Morty a love potion that ends up forcing him to Cronenberg an entire version of Earth as he and Morty bail to a universe in which they die in an accident and are able to take their spot while leaving behind a hardened family to face the bug creatures left as well. These fun and scientifically interesting journeys, each episode, and continuing into the future of the series, has landed at the spot of number 6. Number 5. A Pup Named ScoobyDoo. Even though it was released in 1988, the loose prequel to the original Scooby-Doo Where Are You cartoon, released nearly 20 years prior, this cartoon always held a more special place in my heart than the original, even though I loved Scooby-Doo's older stories. I always felt like A Pup Named ScoobyDoo always fit my childhood feelings and funny bone a lot more than those classic mysteries. The episodes dealt with things more close to my kidhood, worries, and dreams. All the characters are so memorable and lovable, I don't know how anyone can hate this show. Honestly, it was a real toss-up between this and Tom and Jerry Kids, which I would watch directly after this, so I guess I can say I have a soft spot for these kinds of shows. And as it's not a true prequel and not being exactly held as canon to the series, I decided to include it inside of these originals, as I feel this show deserves the attention more. I never hear about it, and Scooby-Doo Where Are You always gets so much praise. But honestly, I have so much more fond memories of this show, and it's what lands at the spot of number 5 in my top 5 favorite cartoons. Number 4. Teen Titans. This one was another toss-up between this and Batman the Animated Series, and where I can hear my other 90s kids calling for me to be burned at the stake for choosing the Titans over their much more serious mentor and higher grossing show by far. But, I've always had a closer relationship and emotional connection to the original Teen Titans over Batman the Animated Series, just for the more emotionally driven storylines at times. For all the love I have for Bruce's adventures in 2D, I'll always feel closer to his partner in crime fighting's journey against Deathstroke, known in the Titans show by his actual last name, Slade. That, combined with Beast Boy's emotional struggle with loving both Raven and Tara at the same time, and Cyborg's hidden relationship with one of the team's enemies in Jinx, just always kept the show more grounded to me whereas Batman was your typical romp into the always seedy and at times crazy underbelly of Gotham's crime-ridden streets. Teen Titans always was more lighthearted, never being too serious or afraid to make fun of itself and the source material that it pulled from. Heck, that's what led to it having a very successful reboot into an even more kid-friendly adaptation known as Teen Titans Go, but we'll get into that on another list again. The only beef I could ever find with this original Teen Titans was that it never really truly ended. Sadly, before the finale could air, the show was canceled and removed from syndication, which devastated me as a preteen, as I had truly connected with these characters. Even so, there was so much fun and love had with this amazing show, it more than earns its spot at number 4 on this list. Number 3! Family Guy. Okay, so this is gonna be another one where I won't have to say much. I know, just as all of you know, how insanely popular this show was at its apex, and where its attraction has died off a bit over the years, which I only attribute to what I call the hurting of age. Most shows that live longer than a generation see this type of stagnation. To me, it still holds a very special place in my heart for being my show of choice during the era of my life where I would stay up late nights in high school and college and listen to the show's incredibly disrespectful and perverse jokes while writing and editing the original J&B backyard wrestling videos I am known for on my older channel, and busting out laughing at the outrageous things coming out of my TV. Those memories, mixed with the episodes that drove my intellect a bit, with Stewie and Brian's wild adventures through time and space, make Family Guy number 3 on my favorite cartoons of all time list. Number 2. King of the Hill. What can I say about King of the Hill? This show, created by Mike Judge, also the creator of another show I love, Beavis and Butthead, which is only not on this list because it's a little bit before my time. King of the Hill seems to be a synopsis of my life, with a couple of the characters tweaked. Bobby Hill is very obviously me growing up, a comedy-driven, video game-loving, theatrical child who is driven by his, very obviously my father, Hank Hill, who is a football star when he was in high school, wants his son to be a football star, and generally doesn't find anything his son is interested in interesting. This is absolutely me and my dad's dynamic growing up. Whereas Peggy Hill doesn't exactly simplify my mother's attitudes, she actually kind of is a mix between mine and my stepmother that my father would marry later. On top of that, Bobby's name is the name of my older brother. This in itself always captivated me, making me feel like this was a documentary of my life. Whereas I don't have a character to match his cousin Luann, my sister Randy had a lot of the same 90s tropes that Luann, although being much stupider than my sister, would exhibit throughout the show. These combined things always made me so interested in the show, on top of it just being a wildly hilarious and wildly crazy show at times. These combined things on top of my just straight love for the character of Hank Hill land King of the Hill the spot of number 2. Number 1. Edd, and Eddie. Here we go. This is my final and most favorite cartoon of all time. And why is that? Because Edd, and Eddie was literally the cartoon I would rush home from school to see. It would usually come on about 4:30, right as I would be getting home from school. And when I would get home from school and sit down in front of that TV, This sound would be the best sound I had ever heard in my entire life. Done was the time of learning at school and having to say yes ma'am and no ma'am to teachers, and now was the time to laugh, have fun, and see the craziest, wildest stuff ever thought up on a Cartoon Network TV show. I am serious. There is a whole episode where Ed and his friends Edd and Eddie, also known as Double D since he has the same name, but 2 different letters, actually destroyed reality, and I don't know how else to put that. They destroyed reality and broke everything. Now, it's commonly thought that this episode is just the boys thinking about how they could destruct reality, or deconstruct, mind you, although destruct seems to have the same meaning here. It's just such a crazy episode, and as a child, it makes you think about things like physics and how the world works, which in a cartoon like this, you wouldn't think you'd get into much. But there are so many episodes that not only make you laugh hard enough to fall over, they also make you think about things in the day and age in which the cartoon was written. This is one of the perfect 90s cartoons, and on top of having such an emotional connection, for me seeing Ed, Double D, and Eddie as me, my 3 friends, Thomas, Justin, and me, I just couldn't tell you how much this show meant to me. If it wasn't Dragon Ball Z, which obviously is probably my favorite cartoon if we're talking about anime and cartoons together, Edd and Eddie is definitely my favorite American, North American, or any other this continent cartoon. Edd and Eddie holds such a spot in my life that I honestly have gone back and watched it hundreds of times on streaming services. There's no end to my love for this show, and there will never be a show that will top it ever on my list. And that's another list down, guys. We have so many more things planned and so many more top 10s to go over. So for this video, I'll just tell you guys, sayonara, and we'll see you next time. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you see all my videos, and make sure you tune in next time. See ya!